So what do you usually learn, right? And if someone wants to come to you and ask you, can you develop a product for me? Will you be able to do it? Hence why what now I just mentioned now, especially hackathons, and we are trying to activate that mindset, using like you need to attend hackathons if you want to expose yourself as a young, let's say, developer, right? If you really want to be out there, have access to opportunities, you need to create your own brand.
So you mentioned that there's a lot of careers within the tech industry, and software development is the one that's glamorized, and networks as well. Yes, they're the ones that are systems. Okay, sysadmin. Okay, so while we're on that, what emerging roles and in-demand skills have you all observed within the industry?
I think that's quite a broad thing. Like I said, there's so many branches. You have stuff like software development, hardware, um, networking, sysadmin, data science, AI. You have support, IT support, project management, governance, sales, which people don't generally know about, business analysis, database administration, information security, IT auditing, and then obviously QA testing. So there's a lot of branches. You can't just say these are emerging roles overall in IT, you know. So there's you need to kind of look into each branch, into each sector, and then you can kind of identify roles. So yeah, so for instance, let's see, I'm not going to speak about software engineering. Everyone will overloaded by now. So yeah, stuff like support or system, sysadmin. I think people don't generally look into stuff like cloud computing, virtualization. These are also emerging trends right now and quite in-demand skills. So definitely, I would encourage people to also look into stuff like that.
Okay, so we can look at it from a technical and non-technical perspective. Okay, so from the non-technical, we have the salespeople who are working in tech as well that we should consider. Okay, because it's always that we're talking about, when we're talking about breaking into the tech industry, it's more breaking into it as a mobile app developer or a systems administrator. But there's also the other side where you don't have to study software development or computer science. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, so a lecturer actually mentioned something 2 weeks ago. He said, I feel the best IT salesman should be someone that studied computer science. So then you kind of understand what encompasses a system, what a system is supposed to have, how a system is supposed to perform also. So like me personally, I specialize in IT sales. That's my strong suit. So yeah, IT sales at close to 1 billion also. So yeah, definitely that's also an avenue I definitely encourage people to also look into. But yeah.
Maybe I should start my own company so you can come and make my money. Wow, brilliant. So from what I think is, first you need to see what's relevant. Because I mean, with the fast evolving technology, you will see that there will be some technological stuff that will be obsolete, right? And obviously, like as we have ChatGPT that's doing almost most of my work nowadays, right? I mean, even when I came for this interview, I asked some, just to prepare. Now that's just a joke. But yes, I would say you need to look at what's going to be relevant in the next 10 years, Because I mean, I'll give you a good example. When I started when I was studying, when I started to take cybersecurity, it's because I didn't want to do system admin or networking or software engineering because I sucked at it. I looked at cybersecurity and I asked myself, like, how important will cybersecurity be in the next 5 years? Obviously, cybersecurity back then it was more of a buzzword. You know, people were just talking about it, but nothing was being done. And now, if you really have to look at the industry, and that was like 2018-ish, 2015, 2016-ish. And now cybersecurity is quite a big thing. It's like a huge need for cybersecurity, even here in Namibia, right? So try to look at what's going to be relevant in the next 10 years when you're usually choosing your career. So just to mention a few, I would say, like she said, system analyst, system analyst, because obviously it doesn't matter how old you are, we still have to deal with analyzing our system, checking how if something is gonna work or not. Obviously machine learning, guys, and cybersecurity. I would say blockchain, like Noah also mentioned. Those are some of the biggest topics, or rather trending topics that we'll still be talking about in the next 10 years. So again, my advice to you is when you choose your career, ask yourself this: will this be relevant in the next 10 years? Else you'll be replaced by ChatGPT.
Can I come in there? I think you guys have touched on it quite brilliantly. There's not much I want to add there, but I want to highlight from a different angle. A couple moons ago, I was engaging with my team internally. So we started a disruptors committee within our organization at MTC, and these are the guys who are going to transform everything. We're going to go in every department and disrupt, right? So while I was onboarding them, I was giving a presentation around the digital transformation strategy for the company. And one of the key focuses was automation. So we're going to automate stuff. We don't need to do this anymore. We don't need to do that. And as I continued speaking, the room just became quiet, quiet. At the end, someone very bravely asked, "Yeah, but now if you're talking about automation, where's my job going? I'm here and you're talking about automation, so I'm not going to be relevant anymore." So we're talking about roles, 100%, but I want to emphasize skills. And I don't know if there's anyone here who's not from a technical background. Hands up. Who studied tech? Who did not study tech? Right? Okay. So I'm speaking to you guys. Skills. Don't think role, think skills. So in whatever space you're in, whether it's finance or whatever it may be, think of what are the tech skills that I might need to be able to do my job properly. He mentioned one thing brilliant. Someone's chat GPT is going to replace us, but not necessarily. Someone who knows how to work with chat GPT is going to replace you. So ultimately, regardless of whether you are tech oriented or not, at the moment, you need to focus on skill set. So how can you start bringing in data analytics skill sets within what you do? And I think data is the most important. I'll give an example. Part of my team in the digital transformation space, I have people from different backgrounds. I have someone in finance, someone who studied accounting, actually doing automation. And one of the reasons behind that is because you know finance, you know accounting, you know what happens in that finance department. So ultimately, you'll be the best person to automate those processes. So we also just have to reorientate the way we think and start thinking, okay, fine, let me not focus on running towards or looking for IT specific roles, but let me look at how can I bring in IT specific skills into the environment that I work in, because ultimately that will also give you an edge. And that is very important. As part of our digital transformation strategy, what we're doing from a change management perspective as well is also to start identifying across the organization, not just technology, but across the organization, what are the type of skill sets that we need. So now we're talking about people with an orientation towards artificial intelligence within HR, because now HR will know they'll be better able to take care of their employees because they're leveraging AI. Now I don't need to speak to people, but I can sort of, based on the data we have, the systems we have, I can leverage that data and be able to serve my employees much more better. So skills, having a skills focus is quite important. Thank you.
Nicely said. Don't think roles, think skills. So, Ephraim and Chantel, do you guys have any contributions in terms of in-demand skills within Namibia's industry?
Okay, sorry. I think what I also just want to touch on, besides just the technical skills that we're talking about, I think we tend to also overlook stuff like soft skills. And what I've noticed, especially throughout my career, number one, problem solving and critical thinking, communication and collaboration, and the most important, lifelong learning. Are you willing to learn? Because whether you step into a finance role as an IT specialist, are you willing to kind of learn everything about the finance sector? Or are you just gonna rely on what I know and just end there? Because someone also recently told me that they hired an intern, and instead of trying to learn more about the role, about the company they're involved in, they're kind of just now sitting back. And now it's coming to a point where should they let the person go? And that's what I've noticed a lot about interns in general, or just recent graduates. We tend to just rely on what we taught and that's it. So definitely lifelong learning should should just be a skill that you generally adopt throughout.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't agree more to that. Thank you guys for those insights. So, any developing industry is not without its challenges and obstacles. So, knowing these challenges, obstacles, and hurdles that you may encounter can help you navigate Namibia's tech ecosystem better. So, now, can you tell us what specific industry-specific challenges lie in terms of digital transformation and technology adoption as well within Namibia's tech industry?
All right. I think first thing is that where we stand is that there's a need for us to transform very rapidly. There's a need for us to sort of optimize our processes, to work towards having better efficiencies, and also looking at how are we able to churn out more product, how are we able to also make sure that our services are more efficient, as an example. Now, in order to do that, yes, there's a reliance on using technology to sort of fast track all of those different objectives. But the problem is, in terms of skill set within the country, we don't have how do I put it? We don't have a diverse range of readily available skill set that is exposed to the way, the pace, the expectations of industry. That has been one of our encounters or challenges. And I think Chantel mentioned it. As a graduate going into industry, you would quite often find that sometimes you don't necessarily get what organizations don't get what they actually sign up for. And through the HTTPS at NUST, what we've done is actually to bring NUST closer to the table and bring industry as well. So you have academia and you have industry. And then you have industry saying, okay, but academia, you guys are sending us graduates. These graduates have graduated in software development, all of these things, but they are unable to apply their skills within our environment. So that element of also misalignment in terms of the skills that are being produced, that's one of the challenges we actually have in industry. So what we're doing to sort of address that is then to bring industry and academia into the same room, and industry starts informing academia to say that, you know what, these are our priorities. These are the skill sets we're looking at. These are the talents we're looking for. How do you then tailor make your curriculum to start focusing on this? That's one thing. Another thing is also looking at things like there's a disjoint in terms of everyone wants to do something, but everyone is doing it in silos. From an industry perspective, okay, right now you have CC Hub as an example. We have Startup Namibia. We have all these different entities. Everyone is doing something. But for as long as we're not coordinated, we'll all be trying to solve the same problem in our own silos, which actually creates some sort of fragmentation out there. Now, not to speak towards the startup community, it's just an example. The actual problem is in industry itself. The actual problem is in government, for example. Now, what we've done is to look at how do we start creating partnerships. So one of the challenges is a lack of partnerships. So we started creating partnerships to sort of start looking at what are the challenges that are sort of specific to each and all of us that we can partner on. So now we have entities partnering, as an example, on initiatives like, okay, we need to create new platforms. We need to localize our development. How do we then partner and share in the risk to say, you know what, we're not going to buy the system from South Africa. We're going to take 2 years to develop it. It's fine, we'll wait. But as long as we create a sort of pipeline where we're creating talent locally. So partnerships really is something that we need to start really pushing in order for us to start meeting some of these challenges. And also just the quality in terms of alignment to industry goals and needs from a university perspective or skills perspective. Those are the gaps that are out there. Yeah.
The skills mismatch is something that we are extremely focused on solving at Billet. So I totally get your point. What would you recommend for students to solve that skills mismatch on their own?
Okay, I think the environment right now, and I'm going to be biased towards MTC, NAST, HTTPS, because that's a practical example I have. The environment right now is being tailor-made to students to sort of create partnerships that will allow for a practical application of skills, right? Whereas before, if you do internships, I don't know, how many of you are still studying? Oh, almost everyone. How many of you have done your internships or still have to do internships? No? Okay. So the thing is, previously when you do internships, most of the time you'll find yourself making coffee or just being someone's second hand or whatever it is. But now what we're trying to do really is to create an element where we create projects, not this, what is it, my first program, what is Hello World, what stuff, but to create actual projects. I'll give an example. And I want you guys to just follow me on this because these are opportunities that are out there. Most of my team are interns, right? Or let me rather say most of my impactful projects have been delivered by interns. And that's by really partnering and saying, okay, fine, I need interns. We have this project partnered with whether it's the World Food Program as an example, and we need to create a product. So the level of trust that us as industry have, we've actually just humbled ourselves and say, you know what, okay, we'll work with you guys, right? But we also need then that relentless attitude. We need that positivity. We need the students to be go-getters. We need them to be actively involved in hackathons, actively involved in what's happening at the university level, actively involved in knocking on the doors of industry. So we've created a lot of things like hackathons and all of those different events. Now I actually see a lot of students actually applying themselves and really participating in these events. And now they're handpicked like, oh, this guy did this, this lady did that, they did that. Oh, these guys are awesome. We start speaking to faculty like, send us your best students, you get me? So the best way of actually trying to do it on your own. It's just by doing your best in your studies, because ultimately that's how your lecturers identify you guys. Most of the people that are selected, and this is in my experience of working with other partners, whether it's the guys like the Schoomans, the Old Mutuals, the Mid-Healths, they select people that always perform well in the hackathons, or they select people that actually are highly recommended by their lecturers. And ultimately, that's the best you can apply yourselves in terms of being selected. And ultimately, you will find yourself in a position where you end up working with an entity like, for example, MTC, who says, you know what, we trust our local capabilities, we trust our students, we trust in Namibian talent, and we will say we'll take Namibian talent and we'll build our own platforms.
I just like to compliment what Noah said. And it's something we also trying to do at CC Hub. And this is something that started from Kenya, not Kenya, but Rwanda. It's called the Dev Junction, Developers Junction, where the whole idea is to move away from the traditional teaching and have tech students come with their computers and actually apply what they're learning at that specific moment. Because we understand that sometimes when you go to school or class, a lecturer is there presenting, and then when you go home, you close your laptop, you watch Netflix. So what do you actually learn, right? And if someone wants to come to you and ask you, can you develop a product for me, will you be able to do it? Hence why what Noah just mentioned now, especially hackathons, and we are trying to activate that mindset, is in like, you need to attend hackathons if you want to expose yourself as a young, let's say, developer, right? If you really want to be out there, have access to opportunities, you need to create your own brand.